Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we are going to head today back to New Mexico. Why? Well, because it's a complete dumpster fire down there right now, and that's not saying anything about the residents of the state of New Mexico. It is saying a lot about their governor, however. Now, some have come to Governor Grisham's defense. Most have not, including a laundry list of people who normally would gladly advance the cause of civilian disarmament. But when it's this blatantly unconstitutional, even they can't get on board. But after yesterday's video and the one before that, I had a lot of questions about this. A lot of people wanted to know, can this even be done? Is this grounds to do it? And if so, how do we do it? And I think it's an important discussion. I think it's one that everyone in New Mexico does need to have. So let's talk today for a few minutes and let's get you all educated about how to impeach your governor. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about today is how to impeach your governor New Mexico style. Now, as a side note, I think that the word impeachment has been thrown out an awful lot by people on a certain side of the political aisle. I think that impeachment has been completely overused, completely abused. I think there was a couple of impeachment in recent times that were absolutely nothing more than political theater. I'm not sticking up for that individual president necessarily, but I am saying that to go through not one but two impeachments over those grounds was absolutely ludicrous. So I have a tendency to roll my eyes when people start throwing out the word impeachment. It's a little bit like the boy that cried wolf. Along comes New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Griffin, because she, on the other hand, has decided, hey, you know what? If you want to start talking about impeachment, let me give you really, really good grounds. Now, the grounds have already been discussed. We need not get into that further. However, there is some things that people have asked, and so I decided to geek out, look at the New Mexico State Constitution, take a look at some New Mexico law, and let's figure this all out together. So, the first question is what exactly is the governor's powers? Okay, let's figure out what the powers are. The governor's powers are defined in New Mexico Constitution, Article 5, Section 4. They state as follows. The supreme executive power of the state shall be vested in the governor, who shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. He shall be commander-in-chief of the military forces of the state, except when they are called into service of the United States. He shall have power to call out the militia to preserve the public peace, execute the laws, suppress insurrection, and repel invasion. And again, the word he was added there by the drafters of the Constitution. I am using the exact words out of there, even though clearly in this case we are dealing with a she as the governor. Now, what I don't see in here, however, is some type of authority to issue executive orders, emergency orders, and just sua sponte suspend constitutional rights. However, this particular governor has a history of it. And so are those of you in New Mexico, or those of you in states that are run similar to New Mexico or worse than New Mexico, let's all go back to that horrible time we call the pandemic. Because let's remember that this particular governor issued an emergency order on a health crisis. Sound familiar? Where she essentially shut down schools. She shut down almost all non-essential businesses. It was 15 days to flatten the curve. She signed that order on March 11th of 2020. That order did not expire until March 31st of 2023. Over 3 years she kept people under her executive order. Now, there was a little bit of whittling away in 2022, but not much. Now, let's also remember that in the 2022 New Mexico legislative session, there was both House Resolution 3 and House Bill 40, both of which were bipartisan pieces of legislation, which would have said, hey, listen, anytime the governor issues an executive order, the legislative branch has this ability to, what do we call that? Oh, that's right, checks and balances. We can actually do a review after a certain period of time to see whether or not that should continue. Both of those pieces of legislation, New Mexico, died on the vine in committees there, okay? So you're stuck in many instances with what this governor is ordering. So, what if the governor has done something that's worthy of impeachment, which in all likelihood she has? Well, the power to conduct an impeachment actually comes from Article 4, Section 35 of the New Mexico Constitution. And like any other state and the federal government, the power of impeachment actually lies with the legislative branch. That particular section of the New Mexico Constitution specifically states, the sole power of impeachment shall be vested in the House of Representatives, and a concurrence of a majority of all members elected shall be necessary to the proper exercise thereof. All impeachment shall be tried by the Senate. When sitting for that purpose, the senators shall be under oath or affirmation to do justice according to the law and the evidence. When the governor or lieutenant governor is on trial, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court shall preside. No person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the senators elected. So the House has to send it to the Senate by majority vote because it would involve your governor. The trial would be presided by the Chief Justice of your state Supreme Court, and 2/3 of the state Senate would have to vote to impeach for this to occur. Now, the $64,000 question, of course, is, has the governor actually done something that's worthy of impeachment? Now, I subscribe to this theory that when you go through executive fiat and just sua sponte wipe out the constitutional rights, the inalienable rights clearly announced not only in the Constitution, but in a litany of case law, you just wipe them out overnight under the guise of public safety. No, that probably is grounds for impeachment. But if you really want to get technical, which is what we try to do here at Washington Gun Law, the procedure and the grounds for it is spelled out in Article 4, Section 36 of the New Mexico State Constitution, which reads, all state officers and judges of the district court shall be liable to impeachment for crimes, misdemeanors, and malfeasance in office. But judgment in such cases shall not extend further than removal from office and disqualification to hold any office of honor, trust, or profit, or to vote under the laws of this state. But such officer or judge, whether convicted or acquitted, shall nevertheless be liable to prosecution, trial, judgment, punishment, or civil action according to law. No officer shall exercise any powers or duties of his office after notice of his impeachment is served upon him until he is acquitted. Okay, that's a loaded thing. Let's start from the back though. If in fact notice of impeachment were to be served on Governor Grisham, she would not be allowed to issue any orders at that point. She literally would not be allowed to govern, and therefore under your order of accession, you would actually have your lieutenant governor take over. Now, the other thing is that we're talking about, and the language specifically used was right here, crimes, misdemeanors, and malfeasance in office. Okay, now, I think we can get into a debate about whether or not these are crimes and misdemeanors and all that, but let's take a look at this more generalized malfeasance of office, because I think we can all agree that when you go out and intentionally stomp on constitutional rights of your citizens and then get all braggadocious and double down on it like she did right here, yeah, I think that probably could be deemed malfeasance of office. But the good news is that there is a case in New Mexico, Arellano v. Lopez. It comes from 1970, and it actually spelled out what is malfeasance in office. And that includes the following. The term malfeasance has been variously defined as a comprehensive term which includes any wrongful conduct affecting performance of official duties, or as a wrongful act which the actor had no legal right to do, or any wrongful conduct which affects, interrupts, or interferes with the performance of official duties, or an act for which there is no authority or warrant of law, or which a person ought not to do at all, or the unjust performance of some act which party performing it has no right, or doing an act which is wholly wrongful and unlawful, in which an officer has no authority to do, and if the act is discretionary, it must have been done with an improper or corrupt motive. And when you go back and you take a look at everything that the governor said in this press conference and in her response to that reporter's questions, there is absolutely no doubt that she has violated word for word just about every single clause in what is the statutory or case law definition of malfeasance under New Mexico case law. So yeah, the calls for impeachment in New Mexico, yeah, they have merit. They have merit because when you take a look at the language of the constitutional provisions, when you take a look at the constitutional structure, when you take a look at exactly what this governor did and how she doubled down on it, when she had a chance to pivot, no, she instead chose to dig her heels in, and she very clearly enunciated the reasons for which she was doing this. There is absolute positive grounds to conduct an impeachment of this governor. Now, whether the votes are there and the political will is there, that's something I'm going to leave up to people who understand the state of New Mexico a lot more. This is a bad week for the governor. She thought she was going to get a lot of headlines. She is. The large majority of individuals, however, including many who support civilian disarmament, have turned on her and said this is a step too far. This is more than a step too far. This is far, far too far. The lawsuits, as you know, are already dropping too. So we already talked about National Association for Gun Rights v. Grisham. There's another case out there now called Donk v. Grisham. That is brought to you by the Gun Owners of America. I had an opportunity to review their pleadings. They're very well done, just like the NAGR's pleadings were. They're very similar because the attack is pretty straightforward on this one. There's also word today, according to multiple media sources, that both Senate and House Republicans in the state of New Mexico will also be filing a lawsuit no later than Wednesday on this. So this story is a long way from over. We're probably going to end up doing more videos about what's going on down there. In the meantime, if you guys have any other questions about what's happening down there or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information is right down there in the description box. Now, let's all remember, part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.